While the goal of the Great Crusade has ever been the reunification of mankind's scattered and lost realms, this has existed in tandem with an altogether more righteously necessary aim of exterminating the enemies of humanity in all their vile and myriad forms. The Emperor, in his divine vision, created the Legiones Astartes for just such a purpose. But there exist in this most hostile of galaxies foes that can best even the might of the Imperium's legions. For such enemies, humanity must call upon the dreadful works of the god machines of the Mechanicum of Mars. Know then that this is a record of the origins and history of the most destructive of mankind's creations, the Titans. The origins of the Titan legions emerge from the deep reaches of the dark age of technology. During this epoch of unprecedented technological development and human expansion, humankind first developed the means of creating gigantic, bipedal weapons platforms. These proto-titans played decisive roles in the numerous first contact wars with aggressive Xenos races, and on many worlds formed the fulcrum of that colony's self-defense apparatuses, especially during the cataclysmic age of strife that would follow humanity's fall from grace. It was during these dark days that the creation of the Titan legions themselves were formalized on war-torn, irradiated Mars. 3 legions were formed out of the fiercely proud Titan clans the Mechanicum could ally themselves with. The original triad Ferrum Morgulus, consisting of the Legio Tempestus, the Legio Ignatum, and the Legio Mortis. All served to protect the nascent Mechanicum against rampaging Psi-Cornivora, rogue abominable intelligences, and techno-barbarians that plagued the blasted wastelands of the Red Planet. At the time of the union of Terra and Mars, these 3 legions were drafted into the Crusade forces and appended to numerous expeditionary fleets, for such is the power of a Titan that even a single engine can change the course of planetary conquest. All Titans, regardless of class, follow a basic design pattern. All are bipedal and roughly humanoid in form, ranging from 15 meters to over 100 meters in height, with varying degrees of size within subclass. All tower over the regular mortals of the battlefield, and all mount armaments of devastating destructive potential. A small force of Titans can level a city in a matter of hours, and a legio is capable of annihilating an entire planetary regime, should it be required. Moreover, their capabilities are in many ways a direct answer to similar war machines utilized by the Imperium's Xenos foes. The Eldar, Fra'al, Orcs, and Vax'al Rek are or were all known to field engines of equivalent size and disposition, making the Titan legions a vital part of the Great Crusade's war machine. A Titan is controlled by a small crew consisting of a Princeps, his Moderati, usually 2 in number, a tactical officer, chief engine seer, and several servitors. The Princeps and Moderati are directly linked to their engine itself by means of the Mind Impulse Unit, or MIU, and through it, the Titan serves as an extension of the Princeps's body. This allows for a much greater and faster degree of control and coordination, and the Princeps's instructions to their weapon systems are relayed at the speed of thought, without the need for crude vocalizations. However, these pilots must contend with the spirit of the Titan itself. Each engine is in a sense sentient, as unlike the machine spirits of other technology within the Imperium, the Titan's mind core possesses a strong and highly willful character that differs from engine to engine, a result of centuries of experience and psychic residue of previous Princeps' interactions through the Mind Impulse Unit. Many Princeps have likened this intelligence to something deeply animalistic, and that the taming of it during the initial implantation and bonding procedure that all Princeps must undergo is a dangerous affair. Some do not survive, and all who do find themselves fundamentally affected by the experience. The bond a Princeps and his Titan can share is so close that the Princeps suffers psychosomatic wounds to their own body should the Titan take any battle damage, and Titan engines have been known to become uncontrollable or deranged in the aftermath of a particularly violent or traumatic death of their crew. Titan classes vary, but nearly all engines can be split amongst 4 basic classes. The first, and smallest, are the Warhound Scout Titans. Standing 15 meters tall, Warhound Titans serve in the vanguard of any Titan deployment, utilizing their speed and small stature to run reconnaissance for the main Legio elements. As their canid form suggests, however, they are also consummate ambush attackers, able in some cases to outfight and outwit engines much larger than themselves, should the Princeps be skilled enough. Warhounds are also known to accomplish this in packs, with several such Titans operating in coordination to track down and eliminate fleeing enemies after an engagement. Despite this, they are considered very lightly armed and armoured for Titan-class war machines, and must avoid direct conflict with any such engines, lest they be entirely outclassed in firepower. As such, during full combat, they often seek out softer targets, such as battle tanks and infantry, or as previously mentioned, use their speed and skill to harry larger quarry. Of medium tonnage, the Reaver class forms the basis of a Titan Legion's line of battle. Neither as agile as the smaller Warhounds, nor as armoured as their larger engines, Reavers make up for such shortfalls with sheer versatility. Their chassis, potentially the oldest of all Titan designs, are capable of mounting a wide array of weaponry that can easily be replaced and changed to match any required combat scenario, and to such an extent that it would take an entire battalion of main battle tanks to combat a single Reaver. Generally, they will reserve themselves for long-range firepower duels and suppression operations, bombarding enemy positions or engines before the other Titans move in. Their design supports this role, as their plasma reactor's position in the rear carapace means it is more armoured from the fore, yet weaker from the rear. Because of this, and its ranged capabilities, the Reaver is more commonly employed in siege operations as a highly mobile artillery emplacement, or as suppressing fire support for engine-on-engine engagements. This being said, some Legios have been known to employ Reavers specifically tailored for close combat operations with enemy engines. Such Titans sport power fists similar to those employed by the Legiones Astartes, in function, if not in form. Such a pugilistic approach to Titan warfare is looked down upon by many Titan Legios, but has nevertheless been proven effective on numerous occasions. The most widely used and most numerous class of Titan is the Warlord. Outweighing and outclassing almost all other marks in terms of height, tonnage, and firepower, a single Warlord can level a metropolitan area in hours and is protected from harm by 6 separate void shields and meters-thick adamantium plating. The strength of the former can sustain continual fire from several dozen battle tanks with no diminishment in operational capacity. A Warlord Titan can obliterate a Warhound in seconds and demolish a Reaver with ease. The only thing that can threaten it is another Warlord, or an enemy Titan of similar disposition. The formidable weapons of the class are backed up by an equally formidable sensory auspex array, sensitive enough to locate enemies by engine noise in the middle of a blinding sandstorm. Warlords are fully sealed atmospheric environments, allowing them to operate in hostile atmospheric conditions or even vacuum with impunity. Due to the harshness of the connection with the MIU of a Warlord and the extreme psychosomatic injuries endured by any who would control such a machine in combat, many Princeps of Warlords spend their entire careers floating in amniotic caskets to preserve their fragile bodies, deepening their connection and dedication to their engine. Lastly, standing at nearly 100 meters tall, is the Imperator class. Exceptionally rare, the Imperator Titan is effectively a bipedal fortress. They represent the most powerful collection of ground-based firepower any in the Imperium can muster, as only starships can mount larger weapons. Their deployment is necessitated only by the direst of circumstances or the most intractable of enemies, as it would take the capabilities of a half dozen or more other engines to defeat one. Titan construction is not, as is the case with some of the Imperium's technology, a lost art, but it is nevertheless immensely difficult and time-consuming. the construction of an engine in full accordance to the Mechanicum's sacred rites can take decades, or in some cases, centuries, and require an immense quantity of only the purest materials. The Great Crusade was a massive boon in this regard, as the vast influx of resources to Mars and other newly reconquered Forge worlds spurred a large-scale expansion amongst the Titan legions. Mars, and especially the Forge world Lucius, spearheaded this, augmenting capabilities of the 3 original legios with new engines, while at the same time bringing newly reconnected legios into the Mechanicum fold. Many of the Forge worlds encountered by the Crusade possessed Titans of their own, relics of the ancient colony fleets of Mars, long thought lost to the great dark of the Age of Strife. Such forces had often developed idiosyncratic traditions and cultures of their own in the millennia divested from human contact, but the vast majority still carried with them a deep fealty to the will of Red Mars. In the early decades of the Crusade, the Mechanicum had already encountered scores of Titan orders, and by the end of the Crusade's first century, formally organized its god-machine legions under the auspices of the Collegia Titanica, allowing for the standardization of disposition, logistics, tactics, and doctrine amongst the increasingly diverse legions and orders. Each Titan legion is in effect a military body unto itself, operating under the overall umbrella of the Collegia. A legion will possess its own sense of conduct in how they approach battlefield operations, as well as unique heraldry, colour, Titan decoration, rituals, titles, and similar affectations. While they cannot entirely upend the command structure the Collegia Titanica imposes on them, they are given considerable liberty in their practice of it, as well as authority in development of stratagems, tactics, and weapon or engine preferences. In this way and others, the Titan legions resemble the Legiones Astartes, and this broad spectrum of doctrines serves the Imperium well, as, again, similar to the Astartes, a Titan legion can be found that specializes in almost every field of engine warfare. The Legio Gryphonicus, for example, is widely famed for their skill in supporting ground infantry elements. Similarly, a disparity would often exist between legions in their preferences for one engine mark over another. The Legio Audax, known for their close association with the 12th Legiones Astartes, World Eaters, fielded Warhound Titans almost exclusively, operating the lighter engines in large packs akin to the wolves of old Earth. Most legions would, however, strive to balance their Titan capabilities as much as possible, as this would allow them to prosecute the widest variety of operations. This could often be the judge of where they are ranked within the Collegia Titanica itself. The largest of these forces could field as many as 300 god machines, while the smallest possessed fewer than a dozen. Titan units could be requested by an imperial commander of any theatre by petitioning the legion itself, but once it had assented to join a campaign or battle, overall command of its operations was dealt with entirely internally. The legion tended to dispatch a group or groups of 3 to 5 Titans, organized into a maniple, under the overall command of the most senior of the maniple's Princeps. This fearsome collection of force was considered by many to be sufficient to prosecute any campaign the Great Crusade encountered. The Collegia Titanica and its god machines served humanity with distinction throughout the 2 centuries of the Great Crusade. It is unknown quite how many legions were extant at the outbreak of the Horus Heresy, but what is known is that in those 200 years, many of the legios became deeply enmeshed in the fabric of the Imperium's war machine, building long-standing relationships, friendships, and rivalries. In this way, despite their almost godlike war-making status, they were decidedly mortal in ambition and passion, as humanity would soon discover, to its apocalyptic detriment.